Welcome to our webinar series for professionals.
Welcome everyone to this webinar on hormones. Normally it's on women's hormones, but today it's on men's hormones. And I really find that relevant as how we can support the guys for sure as well, and not just have focus on the women and all their hormones. But I just want to share the little advert just as a reminder with you all that we have the event coming up in London in November, and we've sent out some mails. Remember, there's like an early bird deadline very soon. So, and I hope to see some of you there, of course. Now, just to say who I am, for those of you who haven't met me, I'm Anne-Catherine, one of the co-founders of Nordic Labs and DNA Life. And today in the studio, not quite, today in the kitchen, we have Sally Walker with us. And Sally and I have known each other for at least
10 years.
I would say 15.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking about it as well, how many years ago that was, but definitely 15.
Yeah, we did an acupuncture course together.
We did.
Even done some of the masters of nutritional medicine at Surrey University together, that degree. So Sally, and you're an educated physiotherapist, and you've been running education for both men and women in regards to health for at La Centa, Club La Centa on in Spain. Where is it? That's what is the island?
Canary.
Canary Islands.
Canary
Yeah.
Islands.
I haven't been. That's on my list. So, but Sally is really one of those who have many years of experience in regards to hormones. And then this topic came up as a discussion in regards to because it's nice to get Sally's knowledge out, and so that we all can learn from her experience through the many years. And that was why this came up. Sally also has a radio program in the Canary Islands, Tenerife, I think, and where she brings up health topics and educate all the listeners there. And it was so fun. I was with you one evening to talk about lab tests and health and how we work like that. So that's real fun. You can tune in for that. And tonight, you're going on radio tonight, and you're going to pick men and testosterone and men's health. Anyway, enough about me. So we are recording this, so we will share the recording. We will share the slides with you. You can ask in the question and chat and write with me, and I'll try and answer, and I might bring something up for Q&A at the end. And I'll mute myself, and then I will let Sally share her slides and take on the screen instead of me. So now you can do your sharing. Yay, it looks good.
So, is it me?
It's you now. You're on for the big T.
Welcome everybody. So I could say good afternoon, I could say good morning, I could say good evening, I guess, because there's people from all over the place. Yeah, right. So being a radio host, I'm very used to talking to, the glass window in front of me where there is nobody sitting. So doing these webinars, it's nice to have little photographs of people, actually, so I can see that someone's listening. Anyway, we're going to talk about this functional male health or hormonal health, but should we replace testosterone, or should the males replace testosterone or not? That's what I'm going to try and run you through my many years of experience here. Okay, so just to, and now it's not going to work. Oh, it did. It just took a bit of time. There we go. So I'm Sally Walker. I'm from the UK originally, lived many years of my life in Denmark, actually, so I speak fluent Danish, not that I'm going to do that today. 69 years of age, went through menopause at 50, and that is actually where I started looking into female hormonal health. And then about 10, maybe even 12 years now, I started looking to male health. So I was a first mover. I'm very often a first mover. Anyway, I'm a physiotherapist, Chartered Society physiotherapist, it's called, TCM acupuncturist, but I'm also a dry needler, or medical acupuncture. So I've got both of the areas of acupuncture, which is amazing. I'm Master in Nutritional Medicine, and I do educate others who would like to know about hormonal health. I call it functional hormonal health because it's not just about estrogen, or it's not just about testosterone. There's many other hormones that need to be involved. So my continual professional development, I kind of guess, is about an hour every day. I do go on longer courses, but I think most days there will be some study I'm popping into, having a look at, updating myself with. And yeah, so this radio show, which I have this evening, it's called The Happy Health Show. You can listen in live. All the shows are recorded. They go up on my Facebook page on Fridays or Saturdays. And it's called The Happy Health Show. So it's all about topics about health. And this evening, I'm going to talk about testosterone replacement therapy, but I'm going to include the girls. So I'm going to look at both male and female. So that's what I'm doing this evening. If anyone wants to continue listening to me. Okay, let's keep going. So hormonal health is not just about testosterone. And that's actually what I said there, didn't I? When I teach people about hormonal health, it's not just the one hormone. It's never just the one hormone. And not all symptoms associated with male health are to do with testosterone. There can be other hormones involved. There can be lifestyle practices which are involved. There can be an array of different things which are affecting male health, male hormonal health. So we're going to have a little look at some of those things today, such as the pituitary hormones, luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone. They are definitely hormones that need to be checked when you're looking at testosterone levels. I would say even in females, but definitely in males. So testosterone and its metabolites doesn't have so many metabolites. Perhaps we should say DHEA in its metabolites, but it does have some. One of them is estradiol or androsterone, so estrogens. The thyroid hormone, very much overlooked in male health, is my experience. So I do emphasize with my male clients that they need to ask the doctor to check their thyroid. Typically, it's only TSH that comes back, but it gives us a starting point at least. And then the adrenal health, so adrenal hormones, cortisol and DHEA are very, very important indeed. And also estrogens, the estradiol. So all of these things we would like to have a picture of when we're working with our male clients and they're presenting with symptoms of what they think is low testosterone. So just a quick bit about testosterone. So it's referred to as a male sex hormone, and I put it limits understanding. And it does desperately. We need to get away from calling estrogen the female sex hormone and testosterone the male sex hormone, because they are very much more than sex hormones. Yes, definitely testosterone is going to increase the male characteristics, estrogen the female characteristics, but it stops pretty much there. But then testosterone is very important for probably every cell in the body. But we can see that it's very important for prostate, for testes, for skeletal muscle, for bone, for skin, for hair follicles, for brain, cardiovascular system, adrenal glands, kidneys, mammary glands, and even some cancer cells also are affected by testosterone. So it's wrong, really, we call them for male sex hormones and female sex hormones, but yeah. So testosterone and its metabolite DHT, dihydrotestosterone, work through androgen receptors, as they're called. And any tissue in your body which has an androgen receptor can be affected by testosterone. What I like about the focus about male health, optimal health, aging health, second chapter of life, whatever you want to call it. What I like about this, the medical world is focusing more and more on testosterone for males, and they're organizing things very differently than the focus on estrogen for females. And there is a lot of focus on these receptors. And this is, oops, I didn't want to go there yet. And this is really important that we to know more about the receptors, because at the end of the day, it's not the hormone. At the end of the day, it's the activating of the receptor. And so anything that will lock onto an androgen receptor is going to create a testosterone effect or an androgen effect, what do you want to call it. Now, androgen receptors are not very loose. It's a funny old word to use, but that's the word I use to describe it. Whereas estrogen receptors are very loose. I normally refer to these receptors as being a bit of a slut. Anything can lock onto an estrogen receptor, and in some way or form is going to create an estrogen effect. But with testosterone, there are not many molecules that actually do lock onto the androgen receptors, so that makes it a little bit easier. Anyway, testosterone produced, well, it all starts up in the brain and the hypothalamus, releasing this gonadotropic releasing hormone, as it's called, stimulating the pituitary gland to release its hormones. Initially, for testosterone, it's going to be luteinizing hormone. And luteinizing hormone is going to lock onto its receptors again, in the Leydig cells in the testicles. And this binding activates signal pathways, this cyclic AMP levels within the cell. This is going to promote the translocation of cholesterol from the storage sites into the mitochondria. So for you guys that maybe are not aware of this, cholesterol is what testosterone is made of as such, and testosterone actually moves into the mitochondria of the cell. So already here is a little message that if there are symptoms, and I would say any symptoms, but now we're talking about testosterone, if there are symptoms maybe of low testosterone and you're thinking we're not producing well, maybe we should start at the beginning and look at mitochondrial health. So because if the mitochondria are not working properly, then you're not going to be able to convert cholesterol to pregnenolone. Once it's converted to pregnenolone, it actually goes back into the cell again, and it will be converted to testosterone, mostly in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So that's how it's produced, basically. And finally, the synthesized testosterone is secreted by the Leydig cells in the testicles. Yeah. And they have a very high concentration, but as it's released into the bloodstream, it will be at a less level, if you like. Yeah. So after puberty, over 95% of circulating testosterone is derived by testicular secretion. Now, that is really important because there's a lot of people that talk about the adrenal production of testosterone, which is males, but in males, it is 95% from testicles. Yeah. So the remainder arising maybe from extragonadal conversion. So the adrenals are going to produce DHEA and androstenedione, and these can then be transported to peripheral cells like skin cells, hair follicles, that kind of thing, where they then convert to testosterone. But testosterone production in adrenals in males is not particularly high. So, and the classical effects of testosterone because they bind to the androgen receptor. Yeah. So DHT is a metabolite of testosterone, and it is that one which actually binds more strongly to the androgen receptor and is going to produce a stronger androgenic effect. So a lot of people think that DHT is a stronger kind of testosterone, but it's not that. It's because the molecular form of it can bind much strongly and much longer to the androgen receptor, and therefore you get this stronger and sort of more long-term androgenic effect. And the receptor has a higher affinity actually for DHT than testosterone when it comes to it. Yeah. So other testosterone metabolites like androsterone, eticholinone, they are considered to be inactive or less potent as they do not bind well to the androgen receptor if they do so at all. Yeah, so androgen receptors are also capable of binding adrenal androgens such as DHEA, androstenedione, and progesterone and estradiol actually do, but with low affinity. So yeah, it's mostly testosterone and DHT. And listen here. So the rate limiting step of testosterone synthesis production is the metabolism of cortisol to pregnenolone. That's the rate limiting step. So when I said before that maybe when we're talking about testosterone health and production, maybe we need to start at the beginning, which is mitochondrial function. Maybe we need to check this enzyme. The responsible enzyme is cyclohexone P11A1, and that is actually tested in one of the DNA tests, and I have that somewhere further down in the program. So you can actually test to see if this hormone is working well. So these androgen receptors are found in the testicles in various cells, the Sertoli cells, the Leydig cells, that kind of thing. They're also found in other areas of the testicles, the epididymis and the different ducts, etc. But they're also found in skeletal muscles, the fibroblasts. They're also found in the cardiovascular system, so the smooth muscle and the endothelial cells. They're found in bone, so both osteoclasts and chondrocytes and osteocytes. They're found in the brain, they're found in the mammary gland, they're found in hair follicles, they're found in bone marrow, and they're found in cancer cells. So certain cancer cells, particularly prostate cancer, can express androgen receptors. So this is why I was saying that to call testosterone, or estrogen for that matter, called testosterone, the male sex hormone, is probably limiting our understanding of what it actually does. So, from pregnenolone, there are two known routes to make testosterone, and they're called the delta 4 and the delta 5, and it is typically the delta 5 pathway which is used, which is converting pregnenolone to 17-hydroxypregnenolone, and then to DHEA, and then to either androstenediol or androstenedione, and so eventually to testosterone. And that is considered the primary route in humans. But there is a delta 4. Some people sort of consider it to be the backup, which converts pregnenolone to progesterone, and then to 17-hydroxyprogesterone, and then to androstenedione. And this is maybe considered to be sort of a backdoor pathway because it provides an alternative route to make the DHT, bypassing the typical testosterone-dependent pathway. Yeah? Yeah. So this is just a picture, so you can see on the top of the picture we got the front door, if you like, the pregnenolone converting to 17-hydroxypregnenolone, and then you have the line underneath where you've got the delta 4 pathway where pregnenolone converts to progesterone and then to 17-hydroxyprogesterone. So that's a different way of doing so. But these are sort of a picture of sort of the typical steroid hormones which are produced, all of them produced for cholesterol. So if your mitochondria are not functioning properly, not only will you not be producing very good testosterone, but you're not going to be maybe producing any of these hormones on the list. And this one's just a shortened sort of coloured version of it. Unfortunately, DHT is not on the list, but it's a little bit easier to see than the other one. Anyway. So how much testosterone is actually produced? So in puberty, testicle testosterone production rises 30-fold over levels of prepubescent children, both male and female, women and castrated men. So the testicles start producing over 30-fold of the level of testosterone that's been produced before. So after middle age, there is a gradual decrease. So middle age, maybe it's the medical world are not completely in agreement. Maybe it's 30, maybe it's 35, but it's somewhere around that age where there's going to be this gradual decrease in circulating testosterone. And it's written here as well as an increase in LH and FSH and sex hormone binding globulin. That one definitely. So the LH and FSH definitely do increase in females when the estrogen is not, or the FSH does when the estrogen is not being produced in the ovaries. It is presumed that this is also what happens with testosterone, but it's not when you look at blood testing, it's not a guarantee. Or maybe it's the fact that we do see actually males that are 60, 70, even 80 that have still have a good production of testosterone. So in them, we wouldn't see a higher LH or FSH. Yeah. So it's the stimulating hormones, so the LH, the luteinizing hormone, these names are based on the female. Maybe we should have different names for the boys. But anyway, it's the luteinizing hormone, which increases testosterone production, and the FSH hormone, which is going to increase sperm production. So, so as I said before, these trends are absent until late and old age among men who remain in excellent health by exaggerated but those with exaggerated coexistence of chronic illness and obesity will see these changes before. So estimated testosterone production rate is 3 to 10 milligrams per day. 4% converts to DHT, 0.2% converts to estradiol. This is I would say it says it's an estimation because the medical world have not really been doing enough testing to know where we are. But we do know this apparently. So from 1999 to 2016, there's been a drop in testosterone levels in general, approximately 25%. So serum levels have dropped from 605 nanograms per deciliter to 415 nanograms per deciliter. And that means, if you want a picture on it, the average 20-year-old man today can have an average testosterone level roughly equal to that of a 67-year-old man in the year 2000. Not a good sign. So you need to start thinking about why is that happening? Yeah, is it lifestyle? Is it food? Is it what is going on there? Yeah. So these metabolites, the main metabolites for testosterone are androsterone, etocholinone, and androstone, and the most potent are the DHT, which is, as I said, that strongest activator of the androgen receptor. And DHT is found to be 2.5 to 10 times more potent than testosterone. And the half-life of DHT is about 53 minutes, where the half-life of testosterone is 34. So this is again confirming that DHT has a stronger activation. There's more of it hanging around for a longer time, and it's hanging on to those androgen receptors much longer. And estrogen E2 is a E1 and E2 really, I suppose, is a potent testosterone metabolite. And the weaker ones are these androsterone, etocholinone, which have weak, if any, activation of the androgen receptor. And all of these hormones will be measured in the Dutch tests, just to let you know. So, androgen and adrenal androgens predominantly originate from the adrenal cortex, contribute negligibly to direct virilization of men. As a repeat of what I said, it's testicle production, which is the most important for males. Females, it can be quite good here. So, the weak androgens act as precursors for conversion to bioactive sex hormones in liver, kidney, muscle, skin, adipose, okay? So they can convert there to testosterone, but the biggest production of testosterone is in the testicles. So many men think it's a good idea to replace DHEA, maybe doses of 50, maybe doses of more, but this is incapable of providing adequate blood testosterone levels in men. It converts to estrogen. This is what we're seeing in the studies, that the DHEA in men would rather convert all the way through to estrogens rather than estradiol, rather than staying as testosterone. But in females, it can produce hyperandrogenism. So in men and females are not the same, basically. We know this. There's more and more studies coming out confirming these things, so that's all great. So don't bother with the DHEA, boys. That's not going to help you. Ladies, it's good for us because we like the extra estrogen, but we also like the extra testosterone, but you don't want to be getting so much. I recommend somewhere between 10 and 25 milligrams daily. to avoid this hyperandrogenism. So most of testosterone is bound to circulating proteins in the blood, and the most important one is sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, and that accounts for about 60 to 70% of the proteins. And other proteins can be albumin, corticosteroid binding globulin as well. And the 1 to 2% remain non-protein bound, and we call that the free testosterone or the bioavailable testosterone. There's some people calling that. So, but most of it will be bound to these proteins, in particular sex hormone binding globulin. So a little bit about that protein. Concentrations decrease when androgens and glucocorticoids are high. And so when I first sort of read about that, I was thinking, wow, that doesn't really make sense, does it? We get, it's binding to the testosterone. Why does it then decrease when the androgens are high? Endogenous sex hormones at a super physiological concentrations at the liver due to oral administration. This is why we have the increase or we have the decrease of sex hormone binding globulin. So upregulators of this protein, acute or chronic liver disease, androgen deficiency. So you have loads of testosterone, you don't have SHBG. You don't have enough testosterone, then there's SHBG. And hypothyroidism and excess estrogen. Estrogen is the major player here, which is going to increase our sex hormone binding globulins. And downregulators are obesity, protein, if you're losing protein, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and androgen excess. These are going to downregulate the SHBG. And then there is a drug called Anavar, which can reduce the SHBG if that is necessary. Often necessary or used when taking supraphysiological doses of testosterone replacement therapy, because you're getting this high amount of testosterone, and then Anavar can reduce the sex hormone binding globulin. That comes because the higher amounts of testosterone are going to convert to estrogen. You're going to have high estrogen, you'll have high SHBG. So all this measuring of testosterone, where are we? So blood is gold standard here. Even though I did say you can measure all these things in the Dutch test, and I do advise you doing so because there are many of the tests which you can't measure in blood. But related to testosterone, blood is gold standard because there can be some genetic variations that you don't break down testosterone into its metabolites, which will be present in the urine. So if you're presenting with a lower testosterone, or your customer is presenting with a lower testosterone in the Dutch test will often recommend you doing a blood test just to make sure it is low testosterone and not the genetic defect. Yeah. So there are many dilemmas and many complications about measuring testosterone in blood. So the goalposts keep moving. So the reference ranges have changed over time due to declining testosterone levels independent of age. And these adjustments in reference range better reflect current population levels, so we know that it's declined, okay? And then you've got the thing that reference ranges will differ from lab to lab. This is one of the things. The other is that it's in the two forms. It's in the free, the bioavailable, it's in the bound, so the total testosterone we call it. And while total testosterone is commonly measured, free testosterone, it says may, but will be more relevant for most individuals. And this can be a little bit of a challenge. We'll look at it in a minute. And different lab assays can produce slightly varying results, which can make it challenging to compare results across different labs. It's not easy, this, okay? Here's the numbers of where the testosterone should be, the total testosterone. And yeah, you can have a little look at that and see what that is about. Okay, but in young men, 20 to 30-year-old men, free testosterone levels can range from approximately 5 to 20 nanograms per deciliter. And in older men, 75 to 80, the range might be as low as 3 to 11 nanograms per deciliter. But as I said, challenge with measuring testosterone. Yes, definitely, we would like the free calculation. But the other problem is that we're not testing the levels through the lifespan of a male. So we're not measuring the levels in one particular male or in your client, for example. So we haven't measured, levels haven't been measured before puberty, in puberty, when they were 20, when they were 30, etc., etc. So we don't know what that male's particular levels are. So we're guessing that, oh, you maybe fall within the range. And I do speak with some males which have been in the fitness industry, have been looking after themselves. No, they haven't been taking testosterone replacement therapy, but they have a natural higher level of testosterone. But when their levels decrease as they age, as they will also, they still have high levels and often are outside the age reference range. So the age reference range for men is 10 years, so it's 20 to 29, 30 to 39, etc., etc. And unless the medical world start opening up for the ability for us to test, and I would say even for the estradiol or the estrogens for the females would be a good idea as well. So we get a picture of what it's like for this particular person, so we know that when their levels are dropping, that that may be the cause of many of their symptoms. But that's not happening at the moment, so a lot of the time we're guessing. So what I wanted to tell you, what I want you to understand is that free testosterone is a calculation. It is not a measurement in the blood because there is too little, it can't be evaluated. So it is a measurement and it is a calculation of total testosterone minus sex hormone binding globulin. And then, because there's all this confusion, there was another way to do things, and that is the free androgen axis, which is also a calculation. And it's not even giving you a number in nanograms per deciliter or nanomoles a liter, it's giving you a percentage. So in younger men, 20 to 30 years of age, the free androgen axis can range approximately from 36 to 155%. That's a heck of a range. And in older men, 75 to 80, the range may be as low as 7 to 45%. The calculation, if you want to know how you calculate your free androgen axis, then it is a calculation of total. So the measurements, total testosterone and SHBG measurements have to be in nanomoles per liter. That's the first thing. And it is, you're dividing. So you're dividing total testosterone by SHBG. You are then multiplying by 100, and this is going to give you the percentage. These are calculations. They're not really telling you exactly what's going on. Just to let you know this, it's not easy, but we would like to be able to agree all over the world that we're going to use free testosterone levels and we're going to calculate them by minusing the total testosterone with the SHBG. You see, and that's what I'm saying. And then there's a 70-year-old man with amazing free testosterone levels. So we classically expect them to be low. We classically see this, but then every now and again, and actually, I see more and more commonly that there are men, and these are the men which are looking after themselves. These are the men that are maybe doing more of the strength training, the CrossFit, the high rocks type exercises, who are maintaining their muscle tissue, maintaining their insulin sensitivity, not storing fat, all these kind of things. These are the ones that actually do have good levels of free testosterone, even if they're 70. Yeah. So the American Urology Association suggests that levels below 300 nanograms per deciliter, which is 10 nanomoles a liter, which is total testosterone, in men may be considered low and potentially indicative of hypogonadism. But they're not saying age onset hypogonadism. They're saying underactive testicles for whatever reason that might be, and it might be disease states, etc., tumors, etc. But when we are interpreting testosterone, it's very, very important that we consider the individual's overall health signs, symptoms, and other relative factors is very important. And as we'll see as we approach the end, the official proposals from a couple of these organisations in the UK and Europe are saying that symptoms are probably more than 50% of the ticket to get testosterone replacement therapy. So it is important. One of these ways of testing, see, this is where the men have organised everything and got their act together. So the Adams score, maybe some of you have found this. It's an online questionnaire. Just put Adams score in the search engine, and there will be some sites that come up which will be offering this Adams score. It's not been completely accepted as being medical. This is the doctors will use this such as such, but I think at one point we're going to get there. What I do miss very much is that we have an Eve score, ladies that are listening. We don't, but maybe we should have one. Anyway, so the Adams score is it's a 10 questionnaire, 10-part questionnaire, and it is going to give you an indication that you need further investigation with your doctor. Yeah. So 10 questions, yes or no answers, and 2 of them in particular, if you've answered yes, then it will indicate a lower testosterone. And if you have answered yes to some of the others, yeah. So you take this along to your doctor and say, look at this, I'm low testosterone, could you do some blood testing or other exams or whatever, yeah? So Adams score, ladies, let's get together and make an Eve score. Common symptoms of low testosterone. Let's have a look at this. Decreased muscle definition and strength. That is typically the first symptom. Men will complain about not being able to build muscle like they used to. They can't lift the weights that they used to in the gym, or it's taking a longer time to recover, this kind of thing. And that often comes together with the increased fat accumulation. Typically visceral, depending on how much the testosterone has converted to estrogen, or to how much estrogen there is. We could have the boobs going on, the man boobs. It could be hips and butt fat as well, that kind of thing. But typically it's going to be visceral. So that little cocktail, loss of muscle definition, accumulation of fat, these are typically the first symptoms. If the male is not looking after their life, they might even already see this mid-30s. But the men that do look after their health, they can push this further and further into the future, but generally around the age of 60. See, I work out of a place a few times a week called Club Santa, which is an amazing sports complex. If you've not been to Club Santa, then I do recommend it. Absolutely, it's a beautiful place to come if you want to do sports. So I see a lot of active people. It's not just for professional athletes, not at all. We do have some, but it's for humans that want to be active and want to look after themselves, that kind of thing. So I see fitter men. Breaks my heart, because I see these men, they are rank, they are slank, they have good muscle tissue, they don't have tummies, and they're maybe sort of mid-60, 70, and beside them is the little old lady who's crumbling maybe, and she's put on a lot of weight, and she's maybe even a little bit younger than anyway, don't get me started on that. But yeah, so if they look after themselves, these males, if they have a lot of muscle tissue, they can push this. But this tends to be the first symptoms: losing muscle definition, not being able to increase muscle as they did before, and then the fat, which starts to increasing. Typical signs are your belt, you have to use the extra hole, or things like that. Sexual symptoms that can be a challenge. So erectile dysfunction, and it says it increases from about 5 to 20% between the ages of 40 and 70. But it is not the major symptom of testosterone deficiency. So when we're looking at where testosterone is produced and where the androgen receptors are, in male penis, in puberty, or in the younger years and in puberty, there are loads of androgen receptors. Loads and loads of them, because they're there to help the penis and all the bits, the testicles, everything grow. But some of those can lock down again. So erectile dysfunction is not what many people think. one of the major symptoms of low testosterone. What it is a sign of vascular problems, circulation problems. That's what it is. Because basically everyone knows that for the penis to get hard, you're going to need to have some blood. So if you're having problems with your blood circulation, then that will typically be the major cause of erectile dysfunction. And there are some medical professionals that are saying that erectile dysfunction is actually a symptom or an indicator that there is another disease state, cardiovascular disease. But does the decreased libido, males do not run around thinking about sex all the time as they did before. Maybe they've got trouble achieving an orgasm, or it's weaker than it was before. Maybe the sexual sensations of the penis are less. All of these things definitely relate to a lower testosterone. Infertility, absolutely. Also, testicle shrinkage, yes, absolutely. Could be other things, but yeah, definitely that. Then we've got things like loss of body hair. So you don't have to shave maybe as much as you did before. Some males think that's great. Lower bone density. So we don't have a lot of statistics here because the medical world are not measuring. So typically measuring bone density would be something called a DEXA scan. And for males to officially get a DEXA scan, they have to be over 70 years of age. Females 65. We definitely need to update the criteria for that. Anemia, if you're low in testosterone, it could be that you have a lower red blood cell count, the opposite being if you had too much, yeah. Even hot flashes, that some men get that. Increased fatigue, reduced energy vitality. Then you've got the brain stuff going on, impaired cognition, lower self-esteem, lower motivation, poor decision making, so increased procrastination, these kind of things. And what I experience is these are the symptoms. So on a weekly basis, I do a talk at Club Santa for male health. And there are many weeks where there are no males, but gradually it's becoming more and more in focus. And what I'm seeing there, when I go through the symptom list with them, don't get them to put their hands up if they've got erectile dysfunction, I don't do that. But I do ask them, so how's your mood? And there are so many of them that are saying things like, my family keeps saying I'm getting all grumpy. Yeah. So this mood thing, I think when men realize that it's something to do with their testosterone, I think they're going to maybe shout up more about it. More cautious, less risk-taking, less spontaneity, more grumpy, depression. I did have a male on a talk a few weeks ago, Danish guy. He was so proud. He was mid-60s, and he was so proud because he'd found a doctor that prescribed testosterone replacement therapy for him. And he says, I am such a happy man again. It's unbelievable. So that's a good thing. Right, so we talked about the blood test, we talked about the symptoms, those things are very important. So what are the tests? Okay, so I said about the Dutch urine test, it gives you a comprehensive overview of all the androgens, all the estrogens, all the glucocorticoids, the stress and all that kind of thing, and other stuff as well. It is an excellent test to use, especially related to DHT. So remember, DHT lasts longer and hangs on to that androgen receptor much longer as well. If you are a male who genetically likes to make DHT, you are probably not going to see the low testosterone symptoms as much, and maybe later in life. So DNA, and I don't know here because I forgot to ask Virginia, but androgen receptor activity, we know that it can be measured, but I don't know if Nordic offers this, but it's the length and repetition of the CA gene. The shorter the length, the more active the androgen receptor is. And that would be quite interesting, and it would be really interesting also if we could do it with estrogen receptors and other receptors, etc. Anyway, which can be used through Nordic. So the enzymes, the cytochrome P17A, which is the delta pathways, remember, and the cytochrome P19A, which is the aromatase pathway, and then the cytochrome 11A1, which is the cholesterol pregnenolone. Those can be tested through Nordic. through the DNA test, through the DNA hormones. That's the one it's called. Yeah. So gut health can play a role. It's like a two-way street. Here plays a role in testosterone production and metabolism, and it also can affect, testosterone can also affect the composition and the function of the gut microbiome. So it's like a two-way thing. So checking the gut microbiome would be good. I know there's a lot of focus on the estrobiome, which is the estrogen part of it, but I don't know if there's been any focus on the testosterone side. And then there's vitamin D. Some research suggests that vitamin D could be a tissue selective aromatase modulator, especially connected to breast cancer. So testing the vitamin D levels, we want to make sure we've got loads of that. Yeah. So these are some of the other tests, but as I said, even though it is a bit of a dilemma with the blood testing, it is what we call gold standard. You need to do that, and then you can do some of the other stuff as well. So, John said hypogonadism. So this is the stuff, and this is like an overview. What happens? Okay, testosterone production declines. Now, the medical world don't necessarily agree on why, but it declines, and as it declines, we lose muscle tissue, we lose our ability to build, we get increase of fat cells. Fat cells are some of the cells which do produce the enzyme aromatase, which is going to convert testosterone to estrogen. So more fat cells, more aromatase, more estrogen, and estrogen is the molecule which is going to increase SHBG, which is going to bind up with testosterone. You're going to have even less testosterone. And as I say to my males, and the male talk, this is a vicious circle, and it keeps going round and round and round. But as I say to them, there are so many areas where you could actually make changes which are going to end up by freeing up your testosterone on the bottom line. There's not much we can do to increase the actual production, but we can increase the amount of free testosterone that is available. And this is something which can be very important, and is very important, and is probably something which these aging males who have high levels of testosterone is probably something that they automatically do. Treatment considerations, though, the important question is to ask why is the testosterone low? And this is where there are three sort of areas. They're calling it central or secondary hypogonadism, which is the brain signaling. So there could be something wrong with the hypothalamus, there could be something wrong with the pituitary, that kind of thing, or some reason why you're not producing the LH in particular. Peripheral, so this is primary hypogonadism, which is testicle problems. It's always a good idea to get the testicles checked, to get them scanned, possibly to see if there are any structural problems, to see if there's anything which can be treated, which then will aid the production of testosterone. And then the last one on the list is lifestyle. And it is major. Lifestyle changes can have a dramatic effect on testosterone levels, and definitely should be one of the first things. Okay, so the important hormones to consider to monitor: luteinizing hormone, insulin, cortisol, estradiol, thyroid, and obviously testosterone. Yeah. Lifestyle considerations. The first one is major. It's blood sugar monitoring and control. It is so important. Insulin resistance is not a disease that we want to encourage in any way. And we do see, so type 2 diabetes previously was called age onset because we only saw this type of disease in aging adults. And we do know that insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, poor blood glucose control has a lot to do with the drop in estrogen in females. There's loads of studies there, and there are studies related to the drop in testosterone. So we know that these two hormones are major hormones related to health, related to not developing insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. So that would be a really good thing to do, to find out where is the glucose? Is this something that I need, and not only where is the glucose, but your lifestyle. So monitoring it. So the continuous glucose monitors, they're a really good buy. Most countries in the world can buy these, even Denmark now. And So this will monitor for 14 days. Or you just simply buy one of these little blood sugar monitors from the chemist, from the pharmacies, and then you take a day in your life and you test every 2-3 hours. So you start by testing first thing in the morning as you're getting out of bed. That will be your fasting glucose, and then every 2-3 hours until you go to bed. But either way you do it, the continuous glucose monitor or the normal blood monitoring, then you've got to write down what you did in the 2-3 hours. Did you eat something? What did you eat? Did you exercise? Did you have a row with somebody? Did you have a stressful meeting? Did you have a power nap? You want to know what may have affected your glucose. So if your glucose went up or it went down, you can then look at what you were doing the last 2 or 3 hours, and maybe you can find the cause, and then you can rectify it. That's the most important thing, rectifying. The next, I wouldn't say Eva's next. I would say these two are shared first place: muscle tissue. Muscle tissue is going to help you control your blood glucose. It's going to help you control your fats, etc. It is so important, and this is obviously for males and females. There's a lot of focus on the longevity space as muscle tissue being the organs of longevity, the main organs. So everybody needs to build muscle tissue, and this is all about strength training, isn't it? And it's less about endurance training. So I have some crazy stories that I could tell you about endurance professionals. I'm not going to say the professional athletes. I call them professionals because they do it a lot. Bikers. I see a lot of those at Club Santa. And some friends of mine, he told me that doing all the cycling, he's now 60, that his libido was not good and his ability was not good either. So he was looking on the internet and found somebody who said, stop doing your biking, start doing strength training. So he started doing this, and he said it was amazing. My wife's so happy now. She's one of my girlfriends, and so I know all this, yeah. Anyway, everything's happy, and he says, so I met them here Club Santa last year, and he was saying, so I've been here for a week. We've been out on the bike every day, and now it doesn't work anymore. So be wary of endurance training. Increase strength training and increase your muscle mass is a really good lifestyle change to make. Okay, increasing fat burning. So get your insulin under control. That would make this more able, get more muscle tissue going. You've got to burn more fat. And the funny thing is that visceral fat, which males tend to store most of, we know it's active. We know it's different to subcutaneous. We know that it's going to increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. The actual fat can produce hormones, inflammation, that kind of thing. It's very active. But there's a good side. Because it is so active, it also burns quicker. So burning your visceral fat by increasing your muscle mass actually goes relatively quick. And that's amazing. The subcutaneous fat, not so. And I'm talking here from very personal experience. The ladies, we have menobellies, and it's a combination of visceral and subcutaneous. My visceral fat has disappeared since I started doing muscle work, but the subcutaneous is hanging on in there. So decrease inflammation, that would be a good thing to do as well, because inflammation is going to increase cortisol, and cortisol is going to increase fat burning. It's going to increase glucose, blood glucose. So we definitely want to be doing that. There are so many ways that you can look at decreasing and controlling inflammation, and I'm pretty sure you're all experts at doing that. But measuring it, obviously, again, there will be challenges there. In Denmark, the doctors will typically only measure CRP, C-reactive protein. Other countries, they might be measuring high-sensitive CRP. They might also measure ESR, but typically that's what you get. Unless these numbers are high, then you might get the docs to measure the TNF alphas and the interleukin 6s and things like this, which tell us much more. But aging, inflammation tend to go hand in hand. So I think most people would benefit from looking at their lifestyle, their diets, their this, that, and the other. But anyway, I'm pretty sure you're all experts with inflammation. So decreasing estrogen is another one. So Estrogen can be created from testosterone endogenously, obviously, but we've got all these other xenoestrogens in our diet, in our personal care products, in the plastics, in the pesticides. They're all over the place. And they definitely do lock onto the estrogen receptors, the ER receptors, and they're going to increase an estrogen effect, which is a fat storer, and it's going to store boobs and bums. That's where we store fat with estrogen kind of thing. So that would be a good thing to do to clean up these xenoestrogens as much as possible, because it's not easy. They're here to stay. Sleep. So sleep's a really important one, because sleep is the only lifestyle consideration that can actually increase your production of testosterone. So sleep hygiene is important. We want lots of REM sleep, because that's where we produce testosterone. So if your client's not getting REM sleep, or not getting enough of the REM sleep, then there won't be a big production of testosterone. So as I said, sleep is probably the only way we can actually increase the production of testosterone. All of these other things are going to increase the availability of the testosterone that your male is producing. There's things like aromatase inhibitors. Now, these are quite popular in the bodybuilding world. So people that are taking exogenous testosterone, possibly in too high levels, they maybe take them together with an aromatase inhibitor, which is going to block the conversion of testosterone to estrogen. But that might not always be the best thing to do, because males also do need estrogen. But yeah, they're there. And then there could be various supplements that could be important. You could get your client to start eating bull's testicles. Yes, they contain androgens. They come in capsules, so you can get it that way. Yeah, making sure you've got vitamin D, making sure you have enough zinc, making sure you have enough vitamin A, things like this. They're all good things that should be considered. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about testosterone replacement therapy, good, bad, indifferent. Where are we? What do we know? There is a disagreement within the medical establishment. Yes, there is. So the complex interplay of potential benefits and risks, we lack a conclusive long-term studies. Yeah, maybe we do, maybe we don't. But anyway, yeah, they're varying interpretations of the research finding, controversy as to the significance of falling testosterone levels with age. Most experts believe that it is a medically significant condition resulting in significant detrimental to the quality of life and adversely affecting the function of multiple organ systems. Luckily, most experts believe this, while others suggest that it is a chemical marker of generalized illness. Due to disease in multiple organs, yeah. And because of this, hypogonadism in adult men is often underdiagnosed and absolutely undertreated. So we're talking, that's age onset hypogonadism, yeah. So these position statements, so this is back in 2023. I have checked to see if there's come any updates. There is not, okay. So the links are here. So you can go in and look at the complete statement if you want to, but I've given you some conclusions here. So the British Society of Sexual Medicine concluded in 2023 that for best results, studies show that lifestyle modification in conjunction with TRT gives best results. So if you put extra testosterone in as a testosterone replacement therapy, and you haven't sorted out your muscle tissue, your fat tissue, your blood glucose, your xenoestrogens, all this kind of thing. If you haven't done any of the lifestyle modifications, you will convert that testosterone possibly to estrogen, but you definitely get bound up by the SHBG. So this is what the British are saying. You gotta combine lifestyle modification with TRT. So the European Menopause and Andropause Society in 2023 said that TRT should be offered only to symptomatic older men symptoms. So as I say to all of my male clients, You got to write down your symptoms. Don't hide them anymore, because you know what men are like. They don't typically want to talk about the symptoms. They definitely don't go to the doctor with them. But now it's a case of you've got to write it down. You've got to own your symptoms, okay? Because this is going to be half the ticket for you to get testosterone replacement therapy. So Europeans are saying TRT should only be offered to symptomatic older men with confirmed lower testosterone concentrations, after explaining the uncertainty regarding long-term safety of this treatment, which is pretty much the same as ERT. Confirmed low testosterone concentrations, that's blood. But we need them to agree on what are we measuring? Are we going to use the free testosterone? Are we going to use the total testosterone? Are we going to use the free androgen? What are we going to use here? Yeah. So you can have a little look at the whole of these position statements, if you like. The Americans. So the Americans are sitting on the fence at the moment, but back in 2002, they proclaimed that the safety and efficacy of testosterone replacement therapy in men with age-related low levels of testosterone is not clear. Yeah. But 20 observational studies showed no increased risk in the mortality in risk for mortality of any type, dying of anything, cardiovascular disease, prostate cancer, or pulmonary embolism, deep vein thrombosis. Okay, this is what they have shown, which is good, which is very good, because there's been a lot of controversy about that. But the study in question, which really pushed the needle, is the Travis study. If anyone's interested in looking at that, the link is in the bottom. So, but what the FDA have done this year is they have removed their black box warning. So for those of you that don't understand the black box warning, it's the little piece of paper which is in the box of medication. So all the bad bits, all the side effects, and all the dangerous bits, they put them into a black box. So they just put a black line that will border it up so you can easily see it. And if in 2025, so this year, after reviewing the Travis clinical trial of 2023, the FDA announced the removal of the black box warning from all testosterone products and stated that drugs could lead to the increase of cardiovascular events. They have removed the black box warning, but they have added that using testosterone replacement therapy could increase the risk for higher blood pressure. That they've added that, but they've removed the other stuff. There is also a testosterone project going on at the moment, and the goal here is to remove testosterone from the DEA controlled substance list. If you want to get involved with that, you can click on that link and do so. So the DEA back in the 90s, or it wasn't even the DEA who wanted to do it, but the testosterone was put on the DEA controlled substances class 3, which is not as bad as class 1 or 2, but it's still on a controlled substance list. And it was put on there because of the outcry from the American public that the Russians were getting all the gold medals. So it was the doping, yeah? So since then, it's also been added to the doping list, and there it should stay. But the DEA and the FDA actually did feel that it was an overreaction to put it on the controlled substance list. But there it is, and there it's been since the 90s. And now there is this project to get it removed from that. In Europe, testosterone is on a list. It was called REACH. It's called something else, and this is poisonous chemicals. So I kind of guess we'd like to get it off that one. This is inhibiting the medical world moving forward related to testosterone replacement therapy. So how do you do this? So testosterone gels is one way. They're not always as effective for men. Maybe not even for women, but because it's going through skin. And where are you putting it? And how good are you at absorbing through skin? You know, are you using thin skin? Or are you using, heavier skin? There's lots of hair. All of these things are going to affect how much you will be absorbing. And if you put it on the same area over time, the fat cells maybe will get sort of saturated with all this testosterone. So there's lots of things that you need to be aware of here with gels. But at the moment, it seems to be good for women, but not for men. Testosterone injections are sort of the gold standard. And I'll talk a little bit more about it. But the microdosing seems to be the best way. So 30 to 40 milligrams twice a week is best. But in general, the medical world are not doing it in this way. This is the functional professionals which are now looking into the microdosing. Some of them are even doing it every day. But general consensus about twice a week would be okay, because testosterone has a life, I think, in about 3 days. So 2 to 3 days. So what you inject one day, you still got loads of it again on day 3 kind of thing. So if you do it twice a week, it should be okay. There's a new way of doing it, is testosterone capsules. These are only available at the moment in the US. These are taken up in the lymph, because putting testosterone directly into liver, you'll not have a good time. So it avoids the first pass liver metabolism when you put it in the lymph. And they're looking at typically 100 to 400 milligrams morning and evening, or morning or evening. Morning would be best, because that's where you do need to have the high testosterone. The company name is there, Kaiser. If anybody is interested in bringing this amazing capsule into your country, they would be very happy to work together with you. So another one, which is relatively new, is nasal testosterone replacement therapy, and it's called a Natesto, and is considered effective for raising testosterone levels and improving hypogonadal symptoms, while also preserving fertility, though long-term safety and effectiveness are still being studied. But 3 times a day, can also be used in women, and is said to have sort of an instant libido increase. Might be good. Anyway, there's not a lot of studies about it, but it's the new kid on the block. The types of testosterone which are injected, there are different types which have different effects. So the cypionate, for example, what they are saying, the people that are working with this, they're saying that subcutaneous is better than intramuscular, seems to last longer than when you do it subcutaneous than the intramuscular. So if you're yeah, well, it doesn't matter how you're dosing, but typically it has been sort of 1 to 4 weeks where they're trying to move away from this, because if you put so much testosterone in, it's going to last for 4 weeks, you're going to have a complete overdosage in the start, and then by the time you maybe get to week 3, you don't have very much left, so you're going to have all these increases and falls and things like this. Testosterone enanthate is also a common injectable with a similar duration and action to cypionate. Then you've got testosterone andropause, which is a long-lasting intramuscular injection, and it's also the one which is in the capsules. So typically dose less frequently, they're saying. And then there's one called Testosterone, an ester combination containing the different types, which allows for both rapid and sustained release of testosterone. But as I said, there is a lot of focus moving away from the injections every 2 to 4 weeks to injections some every day, others maybe every sort of 2 times a week. And that's what I was saying. So 30 to 40 milligrams, 2 to 3 times a week. So testosterone has a plasma half-life of 2 to 3 days. What is important when you do replace testosterone is that you get your testosterone levels checked, and also you check your symptoms. So what if your symptoms don't improve? And that's a really, really good question. And I think that is one that we should use for women as well, So we need to reevaluate. So are there other reasons for these symptoms that we presume to be because of low testosterone, like fatigue, low libido, mood changes, brain fog? There could be thyroid problems, there could be sleep issues, there could be depression, there could be vitamin D, vitamin B12 deficiency, there could be chronic stress, there could be, there could be lots of things. So we would need to sort of reevaluate the diagnosis. You'd have to check for absorption. So you'd want to be able to measure in the blood that the testosterone is not being absorbed. So maybe you need to change to the injections, maybe you're using the gels and things like that. So when did you have the blood test done? So testing testosterone has to be morning blood. That's where we will see the biggest amount of it. So if you're not measuring it until late afternoon, then don't expect to see high levels, basically. check the estrogen. So what's that doing? Are you converting the testosterone to estrogen, not keeping it? Is that what they're doing? So checking the estrogen, also checking for estrogen clearance. Are you doing that good, bad, or indifferently kind of thing? So could there be underlying conditions as well, like diabetes, metabolic syndrome, that kind of thing? There could be many reasons why that the symptoms don't improve, and we definitely need to look at that. And as I said, I do wish that we would use a lot of these things with women and estrogen replacement therapy. I've already told you guys this. So the history of TRT, so it was it was added to the DA controlled substance list. It is on the world anti-doping list, but that was first adopted in 2003 and took effect in 2004. So there were many years where it was just on the control list. In 2014, the FDA removed idiopathic hypogonadism, which includes age onset or age-related testosterone decline from the list, making it more difficult for clinicians to prescribe. So the age onset or age-related testosterone decline, 2014, has been removed from the list, so it's not easy, or I'm not going to say you can't get it because you can get anything, you can pay for it, but it's not so easy for clinicians to prescribe, but clinicians get around it. So TRT, improvement in body composition. So now you can build muscle a little bit better. Now you can burn fat, improvement in bone density in males, definitely. We don't know about females. The jury are still out on this one because we're waiting for the studies to come in. Improvements in sexual function, improvements in athletic performance. We all know all this. But what about the risks? So the risks definitely related to red blood cell count, this erythrocytosis, so thickening of the blood, which can increase blood pressure. So that's where the blood pressure thing came in. So if you get too much, if you get super physiological levels of testosterone, then you will risk having an increased red blood count and blood thickening and high blood pressure, that kind of thing. You can get the worsening of sleep apnea, acne, that kind of thing as well. You can get the moobs, the breast enlargement, but that would be because of the conversion to estrogen, obviously. You can get prostate growth. Now, it is being categorically proven that testosterone replacement therapy does not increase prostate cancer, the development of. It's not going to increase the risk for you to get prostate cancer. But if you have a prostate cancer, it is typically fed by testosterone or by androgens, so there will be androgen receptors there. So there's a little difference there. So it's not going to increase your risk for developing the cancer, but it will increase the growth of it. And the typical standard treatment for prostate cancer is anti-androgens, basically. Could cause testicular shrinkage, decreased sperm count, leading to infertility if you push too much in. Could increase the risk for sleep apnea and worsening of the sleep apnea, acne, body and facial hair, and male pattern baldness. It could increase the risk for all of these things, especially if you're one of the boys that like to make DHT. Aggression, irritability can be a little bit worse. You get too much fluid retention, possibly liver toxicity, but it is rare because we're using injectables and transdermal force, but with oral, not the capsules, because the capsules like we're talking about are absorbed into the lymph, but other forms can be absorbed directly to the liver, and it's very toxic for the liver. Well, I only went an hour, 20 minutes too long. For listening. I hope that you have enjoyed, and I hope there's lots of information. So the rest of the presentation, there's loads of studies, which when you get the copy of the slides, you'll be able to click on and have a little read and see if there are more interesting points. So how do I get out of this?
So you just you click on that share button, and then I think or maybe I can just click you out.
Share. I'm out. There you go.
There. Hello. Thank you, Sally. That was very nice and a very thorough breakthrough of the whole area. I was thinking, oh, maybe we should do the same for women as well next year.
We should. We should.
No, but thank you very much, Sally. Some questions came up during your talk where you actually answered them as part of your presentation. But a few, and I know the time is
All the
limited,
time.
but I just want to ask a few things. So a question came up in regards to removal of one testicle, if the other one compensates or if the man will have less. Do you have any knowledge?
I think the answer is nobody knows. And I
Okay.
think the answer is that it would differ from male to male. Testing, obviously testosterone, because I have a friend, one of my girlfriends is married to a guy who lost one testicle to testicle cancer. This is probably about 10, 15 years ago. And his testosterone levels are measured regularly and he's fine.
Okay. I guess that.
So again, the lifestyle of that male would reflect very much the testosterone levels. So I think if that male is looking after their lives, training, exercise, having muscle tissue, not excess fat tissue, etc., I think they could have a possibility of having a reasonable, normal testosterone level.
Super. Then Diana asked if you have any experience using DIM or indole 3-carbinol, and I guess sulforaphane for men and estrogen, testosterone.
I like DIM. I like DIM, and I have sort of a bit of a standard recommendation that all males over 40 should think about taking it, because it does the double whammy. It's going to increase the estrogen clearance from the liver, but it is also a mild aromatase inhibitor. And the word is mild. And that's a good thing because males do need to have a little bit of estrogen. So using the medical drugs, aromatase inhibitors, the letrozole, the anastrozole, and things like that, it can be definitely, if you're taking the full amount, it will be way too much. And then males will start getting all kinds of joint pains and things of low estrogen, which women get, males can get as well. So I liked him. Yes, I do.
Nice clinical pearl here at the end. So thank you, Sally, for today. And thank you, everyone, for hanging in there. It has been an amazing hour, just over an hour. But Sally, I told you, just relax about it and people will hang in there. And they did. So to you all out there, take care and remember to check your mail for the London conference if you want to come and join us there. Again, Sally, thank you very much.
For having me. Good luck, people.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
If you do not already have an account with us, please contact our team and we will assist you. If you found this webinar helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel.